What's up, bookworms and fellow named men? Today we're diving back into Joe Abercrombie's brutal, unrelenting First Law universe with Best Served Cold, the first standalone novel after the original trilogy. Now, Best Served Cold takes a different direction compared to the trilogy. It's got a tighter, more focused plot and feels more like a revenge thriller than an epic fantasy tale. That shift might catch some readers off guard. I know it did for me. But after letting it all sink in, I can see exactly what Abercrombie was going for here, and it's a powerful piece in its own right. This book is a great reminder that while I may have my favorite books in the universe, Abercrombie's range and skill always impress me. So let's break down what Best Served Cold is all about and why it might just surprise you too. And if this is your first time here, welcome to Mysterious Galaxies, where I review and discuss science fiction, fantasy, and horror novels. So what's Best Served Cold all about? The story centers around Monza Mercado, a notorious mercenary captain with a reputation as brutal as the world she lives in. Right at the start, Monza is betrayed. Her closest allies turn on her, leaving her for dead. It's a vicious start to an already gritty tale. But Monza survives, and as you can imagine, she isn't one to forgive or forget. The betrayal sets her on a bloody path of revenge, one target at a time, and as she hunts down each of the men who wrong her. Unlike the trilogy, which gave us a sprawling, multi-perspective epic, Best Served Cold is a focused revenge quest. Monza gathers a ragtag team of morally questionable allies to help her. Each of them bring a unique set of skills, or in some cases baggage, to the mission. Together, they become something of an anti-hero Ocean's 11, if the goal were murder instead of money. Each chapter dives into a different assassination plot, each one darker and more inventive than the last. Between each mission, we get flashbacks to Monza's past, helping us piece together how she became the ruthless, complex character she is, and how deep her vendetta truly runs. Now let's get into what makes Best Served Cold work, or not work, depending on what you're looking for. Starting with the positives, Abercrombie's writing is as sharp as ever. His ability to capture the darkest corners of human nature without making it feel forced is on full display here. And while this book has an inherently darker tone, Abercrombie still sprinkles in moments of dark humor that give the story an added edge. The interactions between Monza and her team are filled with biting sarcasm, grudging respect, and outright disdain, and it makes their journey as fun as it is twisted. Unsurprisingly, the character work here is a masterclass. Even though Monza might not be my favorite protagonist in the First Law universe, her supporting cast is nothing short of phenomenal. One standout is Nakomo Kosuke, the darkly comedic mercenary who adds layers of wit and unpredictability. Kosuke has appeared before in the trilogy, getting introduced in Before They Are Hanged, but he gets a spotlight here that really lets Abercrombie show off his twisted sense of humor. Kosuke's mix of self-interest, world weariness, and humor make him one of the most memorable characters in Abercrombie's world. He's reckless, charmingly cynical, and always one step away from betraying his own morals, or really anyone around him for that matter. In Best Served Cold, we get to see Kosuke navigate this line, making him both comic relief and a reminder of just how morally gray this world is. His presence adds a layer of unpredictability that keeps the tension high, especially when his loyalty to Monza is anything but guaranteed. Another character worth noting is Call Shivers, a brutal Northman with his own dark journey. Unlike Kosuke, Shivers wants to change his life for the better. He's on a mission to become a good man. But as the story progresses, we see just how difficult it is for anyone in Abercrombie's world to stay on a righteous path. Shivers' internal struggle adds a tragic dimension to the story, showing the devastating impact that Monza's quest for revenge has on those around her. Shivers is caught between his ideals and his reality, a battle that becomes harder as he descends deeper into Monza's plans. And then there's Castor Morvier, the Poisoner. As arrogant as he is talented, Morvier is fascinating in the way that he justifies his role in Monza's plans as somehow noble work. His disdain for anyone he deems beneath him, essentially everyone else on the team, creates an underlying tension with the group, especially when his ego is challenged. Morvere's meticulous nature and deadly expertise bring a unique and sinister flair to the team. Watching him clash with the others, particularly when his own self image is at risk, adds a lot of the book's dark humor. There are a couple of other characters that round out the party, but the last one I want to focus on is Friendly. He's a really interesting character despite not getting a lot of lines of dialogue. Friendly is a figure who adds a quiet intensity and eerie quality to Mansa's ragtag crew. He's an ex convict with a precise, almost obsessive fascination with numbers, a fixation that borders on compulsive. His behavior, in today's terms, might be categorized as on the autism spectrum, as he struggles with social interaction, rarely shows emotion, and maintains a certain detachment from those around him. What I most find interesting are his moments of introspection. While he's certainly capable of violent actions, he's not inherently malicious. In fact, he shows some self awareness about his ability, or rather inability, to connect with people, and although he may seem cold or unsettling, Friendly is polite, non confrontational, and generally loyal to those he chooses to follow. However, he does have his limits. Falsely accuse him of using loaded dice, for example, is one surefire way to see his deadpan violence emerge. Together, Mansa's team is as fascinating mix of personalities and motivations, and their volatile chemistry is a big part of what makes Best Served Cold so compelling. Abercrombie gives each character just enough depth to make them feel essential to the story, even when their role seems secondary to Mansa's main quest. Their interactions, whether it's Koska's sarcastic jabs, Shiver's internal conflict, or Morvere's inflated sense of superiority, adds layers of complexity and humor, making this cast one of the more memorable ones in Abercrombie's work. Another thing that works well here is the nonlinear storytelling. The flashbacks serve as powerful narrative breaks that flesh out Mansa's motivations and relationships, gradually revealing why her vendetta is so personal. It's a clever device that allows Abercrombie to build up suspense without relying on info dumps, making each revelation feel impactful. Even though the plot structure might feel predictable, with each chapter focusing on a different target, Abercrombie manages to keep it fresh with inventive set pieces and unexpected twists. Just when you think you know where things are going, he finds a way to surprise you. However, if you're coming in looking for an epic, world-spanning adventure like the First Law trilogy, this book might feel a bit narrow in scope. There's less magic and world building here, and most of the action stays within a smaller, grittier setting. Abercrombie's choice to focus on a contained revenge plot means that the sweeping, epic feel of the trilogy isn't really present. For some readers, this might feel limiting, but for others, the tighter focus allows for a deeper dive into character psychology. It's a shift, and it takes some getting used to. I will mention that my least favorite part of the book is a weird, and I think I'm reading this correctly, incestuous relationship between Mansa and her brother Benna. It's unnecessary and makes me feel gross about reading it. Similar to the first time I read Jaime and Cersei's interactions in A Song of Ice and Fire. In a book about extreme brutality and bloody revenge, was it also necessary to make our main character incestuous? So why should you read Best Served Cold? Well, if you loved Abercrombie's character-driven storytelling in the First Law trilogy, this standalone is worth picking up. This book is essentially Abercrombie's take on a revenge thriller, and he brings all of his grimdark expertise to the genre. It's a story that shows off his strengths as a writer, morally complex characters, dark humor, and a plot that keeps you guessing. One of the unique joys of Best Served Cold is watching his morally gray team of killers work together, and often against each other. Abercrombie uses this dynamic to highlight the individual quirks, ambitions, and moral failings of each character. The tension within the group makes for some of the best moments in the story. If you enjoy flawed characters with dark, often self-serving motivations, you'll find a lot to love here. And then there's Abercrombie's prose. His writing only seems to get better with each book, and here it is razor sharp. He's able to make even the bleakest scenes come alive with humor, wit, and insight into human nature. If you're a fan of sharp, layered writing, Best Served Cold delivers it in spades. And for audiobook fans, Stephen Pacey's narration is, once again, outstanding. He gives each character a unique voice, and his ability to capture their personalities elevates the experience. Even if you're not typically an audiobook person, Pacey's performance is worth a listen. It's one of the rare times where the audio adds even more depth to the story. Best Served Cold might not be what I expected, but it's exactly the kind of story that sticks with you. It's different from the First Law trilogy, but in a way that highlights Abercrombie's range as a writer. While it lacks the epic scale I was clamoring for, it delivers a focused, darkly satisfying revenge tale that shows just how versatile this world can be. Abercrombie isn't just telling the same story over and over. He's experimenting with different genres and structures within the grimdark space, and he's proven that the First Law universe has endless potential. The book's gritty, character driven approach may not be for everyone, but it's a refreshing change of pace if you're open to something new. This isn't about saving kingdoms or battling great evil, it's about one woman's relentless pursuit of vengeance and the lengths she's going to go in order to settle old scores. And while Mansa's quest might be brutal, it's undeniably compelling. So, if you're ready to step back into the mud and blood of the First Law universe, Best Served Cold is waiting. It's a brutal, twisted ride, and by the end, you'll find yourself questioning what it really means to get even, or whether the cost is ever truly worth it. Drop a comment down below if you've read it, and let's talk revenge, betrayal, and everything in between. As always, happy reading, and I'll see you in the next review.